Good afternoon and welcome to session number 5 of the 2020 virtual Kentucky K12 Technical Summit. On track 2 at this time, we have the discussion topic, Network Health Check Free. We have Brent Norris from Edmonson County, who is going to walk us through some tools that he uses and help us learn more about how to do our own network health check with something that is free. During the discussion, please feel free to pop in the chat in the YouTube chat and ask questions for Brent. He's happy to help. Tommy Burns, Lawrence County's CIO and leader, is going to be in there fielding those questions. So make sure that you pop in there. And also, if you get time, tweet out to the hashtag Kentucky Techs and ERATCKY as we are following along with the sessions today. There will be an exit survey at the end. So if you would like some PD or ELA hour certificates for the session, and we would also love your feedback. So stay towards the end and we'll put in the chat that link so you can get your certificates at the very end of the session and we can get your feedback. Now for what you're here and to hear from our team and on the call, Tommy and Brent, please give us just a brief introduction of yourself, Brent, and take it away.
I'm Brent Norris, Network Administrator for Edmonson County Schools. Like she said, if you do not know who I am, then you must hide in a hole during KISTI. The only bad news for me today is that I don't have my comic relief of Steve Gum for our session. So I have to be both the straight man and the comedian for this one. I'm talking about LibreNMS, which is a free open source network monitor. And it's network monitoring in like a holistic kind of way where it monitors temp, hardware, data across your network, fan speeds, drive utilization, CPU utilization, memory utilization. It has a ton of stuff that we'll talk about here in just a second. So the webpage for Libre is LibreNMS.org. You can see it up here. And they have a really great walkthrough and talk about a lot of the different stuff that they can do. You can read. I know you guys can read. They have an iPhone app, an Android app. They also integrate with a bunch of different things. And the really awesome thing about Libre is that it has amazing documentation for almost any way to install it. It does run on Linux, which can be a thing, but that's more and more common every day. So if you're one of the people that love these two versions, their installation guide is pretty much a direct walkthrough of how to install these things on any of the software. It's a run this kind of thing. They also have Docker images, OVA, if you want to run it on VirtualBox or anything that can do OVA. Anything like that, they do a really great job of teaching you how to do it. They have a bunch of screenshots that we're not going to look at because we're going to look at mine. And they also have community sites, Discord, Twitter. You can talk to them. They do a really good job of talking on all those things. So I'm going to jump in and show you my LibreNMS dashboard. So this is the page that I land on when I go into Libre. And it has, these widgets are all defined by me. You can pick other things to have them show up. And I've also shrunk my screen down a little bit so that it looks a little bit better for you guys so you can see, you can read everything a little bit clearer. But I have one machine that's down right now, and I've left it down today because it's a desktop server, so it doesn't really have to be up right now. But I wanted to let you guys see kind of what it looks like to have one down. Here are the alerts that you can get. You can acknowledge those alerts. Here's also the availability map. So these are all of my devices, and if they are up or down. These two devices have recently rebooted, so that's why they're showing up as worn. But you can also see uptime, and then, like I said, this is the one box that I have down right here. If you click on it, it takes you right to that machine. You can see all the information about it, and we'll get into that in just a second. So the other interfaces that, or the other things that we have in here are the top interfaces. So these are the highest utilization interfaces on my network right now. So this is on my cluster, and it's and you'll also see as I hover over things, kind of annoying for a presentation, but really great for if you just want a quick look at something. Libre has pop-ups for everything you hover over. So if you want to see this graph in a bigger view, you hover over it and it pops up all of those graphs. If you hover over the device itself, it pops up the main like graphs for this box so that you can see like the various things that it has there. I don't know why I'm gesturing with my hand. You guys can't see my hand. Well, actually, no, I guess you can see my hand, but it doesn't make any sense to you. Um, so you can see that stuff. Please quit. Why are you so like this? Um, so if you want to look at the stuff that a box has a little bit more in depth, you can click on any one of them. Like I said, this is the one that's down right now. It gives you the name, the like the hardware style, the operating system that's on it. This is the SNMP contact info. This is the SNMP location. Also, it'll give you uptime and things like that. It'll show you how much processor utilization you have going on it, and how many. Memory, storage. These are in computing servers, and we run them with pretty tight hard drives and stuff, so a kid can't download a bunch of anything and stuff like that. It'll also give you if you have like if you have this device doesn't really do syslog, but it can give you information about like if it was down, if it was up, what's going on, the syslog information. This is actually telling me that I believe it's telling me that the MAC address changed, which is most likely because it floated between my virtual servers. You can go in depth more. These graphs that it shows here are actually not so much graphs you necessarily actually health is that, I'm sorry, but like this was just running processes, who's been logged into it, the uptime. As you can see, these boxes reboot fairly consistently because we want them to come up fresh every morning. So you get that little like shark fin pattern there. You can also see the health of the machine, like processor, memory, disk, stuff like that on a Windows box. And then on a Windows box, it'll also show you all the network ports, things like that. You can see their traffic utilization, um, what VLANs they're on, all the things like that. And it will connect those up to machines that it's on if it can. So if it has the ability to tell you that that's on my cluster, it will also connect that up so that you can see that link on my on the cluster and things. It'll also give you an inventory. So this is actually a VM, so it doesn't know the processor type exactly, but it'll tell you all the hardware that it has in it. These are the vert IOs, the fixed disk, all that kind of stuff. Um, on I don't. This is just the logs for events that have happened for it. So since I don't this log for this machine, it's mostly just various physical address changes and things like that. LibreNMS will integrate with a package called Graylog, which lets you have your Windows machines send all their Windows log events to it, and then it will put those in here as well, so you can search across them. That's mostly what you care about for a Windows machine, but the more interesting ones are if you look at some of your networking devices, which is the network that we're supposed to be monitoring. So this is our core right here. This is the processor utilization on it, the memory utilization, and these always kind of freak out but the core just always runs pretty much at the max amount of memory it seems like it can have. It doesn't matter if we have someone there or we don't. The uptime on it, which that's a pretty decent uptime right there. Um, Temperature sensors, everything's within range. Voltage sensors, all the power supplies and everything seem fine. Current, and I'm not sure why that one's out of spec there, but it'll also. I have my core set up to do syslog dumps, so I will get all the events that happen on that machine on that device. So if someone logs into that device, I get those. Um, Things like that. So which is really great because you're like, wait, I don't remember logging into that machine. You can set up an alert so that if you log into a machine, it will send you an email. And like I said, that's really great for if you see an event where there's a login and you don't remember it. Because one of the things that's really great about this is that you can actually log the config changes. So this is my current config for my core. And Libre is keeping track of that, and I'm going to move through it really fast so you guys can't see any of the cool stuff that I have in there. Libre automatically pulls that config change when it sees one. The other neat thing is that you can look at all the other configs you've ever had. So I'm now going to say I want to see the difference between my current config and the last config that was on there. And here are the things that are different. So I added some policy rules for the admin profile, stuff like that. I also set a port alias, and these all seem like things that I've done, so I shouldn't be overly concerned about that. And it'll do that for any network switch that you give it directions on how to get to. All you have to do is add in a thing called oxidized, which there's really great instructions on how to do that as well.
Brent, we have a question.
Sure.
It says, does LibreNMS do a network auto detect, or did you manually add the core and other devices that you wanted to monitor? That's from Jody Rose.
It will do an auto detect for you. I personally added all my stuff by hand because a lot of times what I found with other networking software or networking monitoring stuff is that when you do an auto detect, it brings up a lot of stuff you don't care anything about. So I add all my stuff in by hand because I just want to monitor these things. I don't want to monitor whatever random computer out in the network it decided to grab a hold of or something like that. So that it does have the ability to do that. I just don't utilize it.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Like I said, what are we talking about? We don't care about figs anymore. So you can also see all the graphs for like a lot of really interesting stuff that you may not care about until you care about it. So reasons you might care about IP4 fragmentation, if those go insanely high, it means you're getting a lot of packet splitting that you're probably not supposed to get. You can also tell about like packet statistics on if ones are getting dropped and things like that. IPv6, no one cares about IPv6. How long it takes to ping it. Just there's all kinds of interesting things that you can find in there that you probably won't ever check until you have some crazy network glitch. And you can go in here and be like, oh man, these were normal until suddenly they weren't normal. And now maybe that gives me a clue as to what I'm looking at that's causing this issue. You can see the health of the device. So you can check processor utilization over time. This thing pretty much sits idle most of the time. This is what I was talking about memory usage. No matter who we have in there or out of the building, even across summers and everything like that, the memory utilization seems to pretty much stay the same. You can also see temp, which is really good for if you want to make an argument to your maintenance department that you need a new HVAC or anything like that. You can monitor voltage drops, which this thing's on the other side of UPSs, so hopefully the voltages pretty much stay the same across everything. Current draw, power, all that kind of stuff like that. Anything that the device will expose via SNMP, it will monitor it for you. And I'm going to click on ports, but we're probably going to move on because the thing has so many ports on it. It'll take a day and a half to load everything. But it will, in TerraSys and Extreme, and probably most other devices, expose your VLANs as SNMP like things. So this is how much traffic is going across my 16 VLAN and my 32 VLAN and 48 VLAN and stuff like that. So there's also a bunch of things you don't monitor, like bridges and stuff. And then you can actually see these reports going into my cluster and how much utilization they have. And you can see the overtime and everything like that. All that kind of information like that. And it can be really helpful if you're like, okay, all of a sudden everything on this one port seems to be really bad. What's going on? You can look at all the events for it, everything like that. You can do neighbor check. So this is everything that it thinks is connected to it and why it thinks it's connected to it. So you can also see if some of your protocols are working correctly, if they're not, if you expect them to be showing up, but they're not, stuff like that. Um, I've never really got super deep into the SCP stuff. Basically, this thing's the root, I believe it should be. So it should always pretty much be the root. So that's kind of what this information says. You can look at other things if you think that it would show something different. But the other thing that can be really great about it is it inventories the stuff that's in this device. So these are the chassis slots for this S4. Here are the things that are in that slot. So we have a class I, fabric module, blah blah blah, 8 ports, 10G, blah SFP plus. You can then look under that and see what each port is. You can then look under that and see all of the information we know about that port. So here's the temp, here's the serial number for that port, which should be the serial number for the GBIC inside of it, I believe. So you can see a lot of different stuff like that. If you're looking for a specific thing, or if you can't get to your chassis to look at it, a lot of times you can go in here and look and be like, oh, this is what's in that port. So you don't have to physically go look at the thing. It'll also throw alerts if it failed a power supply or a NIC or any of that kind of stuff. This is the syslog for it. We've already talked about that a little bit ago, but I have this device dumping all of the stuff into syslog. This thing accepts those and inventories them, so I can do a search for anything. It should be able to tell me. Nope. All right. So I guess admin. Maybe that logs under a different event. Oh no, that's an event log. It's syslog. Sorry. So now we should be able to see. Yeah. So here's the times that I've logged into this device. And mostly that's what I get out of syslog because luckily, hopefully, nothing in my core is failing at the moment. So that's that kind of stuff. You also can monitor your UPSs. These are all the Symmetra UPSs that we have. You can pull up any one of them, and it will tell you the current state of the battery and its charge level, what the temp is in the room if you have a temp sensor for it, how much voltage is being pulled across each bus, the phase, what your runtime is, and you can set alerts so that if you want to know if your runtime drops below a certain level, the frequency, which usually pretty much stays the same. We don't have very many frequency drops anymore. The battery set or the UPS state, which is online and providing power, and the battery does not need replacing. And you can set alerts up to tell you if the battery does need replacing. This is all the syslog stuff for it. It passed the test, it passed the test, it passed the test, blah, blah, blah. Overall traffic, which the traffic to a UPS doesn't really matter that much. And you can also get there's really anything in here that matters. I think it will also pull a config off of these, I think. And so you can see if something gets changed in that as well. This is a list of all the devices I have. Yeah, so yeah, it does pull the config off the thing. So this is a list of all the devices that I have in my network that I monitor, all the devices that are in my network. But purple switches, black switches, Linux boxes, Windows machines. If you're going to monitor a Windows machine with SNMP, you can turn on the SNMP service, but you don't get all the details that you get if you add another thing on top of it. And that thing is called, I want to say net in SNMP, but that's not it. I will find that in a second. Once I remember what it's called. But I load that on everything, and that way I get more info about the processor and stuff like that. and it also will dig deeper in the networking and all things along those lines. SNMP informant, that's what it's called. Just remembered it. SNMP. So I'm going to drop that in the chat window for the YouTube thing, and that way you guys can find it. And there's a free version and there's a paid version. You don't really need the paid version. You just need the free version. It does pretty much everything you need it to do. We also have we have a couple Synologies. It'll track all of them. It'll track your light speed for you, and it'll show you how much traffic is going through there, everything like that. You can get an alert when it's down, obviously. We do some point-to-point links with Ubiquity stuff just to get it over there, and that stuff, it'll track all of that stuff for us as well. That pretty much covers that. So you also have weather map is one of the really neat ones. So if we go back to my dashboard, which stopped freaking out, hopefully. Down here in the bottom, you can use a little tool called weather map, which is an add-on. It integrates really easy. And what it will do is pull info from Libre and build you this graph. And as the utilization of links goes up, these things will change color. So you can really quickly see in it, you have to kind of lay things out, but then you link these arrows to devices on the network, or sorry, graphs in Libre. And then this data is real time. So it gets updated every 3 or 4 minutes, I think. But you can look really quick, and the darker the color or the redder the color or whatever, you can be like, oh, wait, what's going on there? So in addition to your top ports up here, you can also sort of visually see, oh, hey, something's running out that link really, really bad. Like, I need to go look and see what that is. This other one, so this is your top interfaces. So like say our core has, 150,000 interfaces, which are just, the various ports and bridges and VLANs and all this stuff. These are our top devices. So the overall traffic running across any one device, and it's listed here. So when school's in session and we have all of our kids in the building, this is pretty much always the Lightspeed box, and the top device over here is usually the Lightspeed bridge, because that's so much anymore. Everything's going out those links because it's Chromebooks and everything like that. So that will pretty much always stay up at the top. But underneath that, you can see, oh, hey, this core is got all the traffic across it. Okay, that's expected. But wait, why is there so much traffic hitting this networking stack at this one building? Like, I wouldn't expect that. That's a small building, whatever. Then you can go and you can look and you can be like, oh, that just started yesterday. And then you can kind of dig into it. And okay, let's look at the ports there and where's all this traffic coming from? Now, one thing you got to remember is that these graphs are auto-scaled. So they don't, and there may even be a setting to change that, but so this graph may look like, oh my God, that's like a huge drop and a spike. But then when you look, like those are bits per second. So it's not that big of a deal. So you got to remember to look and kind of see your unit of measurement there. So 604, okay, it's no big deal, blah, blah, blah. But if one of these has suddenly went like to the top end of it and just running flat, well, okay, that's probably not right. Why is that way? We may have a loop there or something like that, if maybe you don't have span tree configured correctly or something. So you can use those kind of things to track down what's going on in the network. So you can also one great thing that Libre is really great about is that you don't have to just look at every single device. You can look at I want to see the CPU utilization for everything. And I think I already have this pulled up. So I do, but this is specific to this one device. So we're going to tell it to pull up health again. Oh, wait. What have I done? There we go. Okay, so this is the memory utilization for everything that Libre tracks. Now, again, you have some outliers like our core, which always shows up being a certain way and stuff like that. But you can sort them so you can go, okay, well, the light speed's running pretty high. Okay, now this is a server, or this is a server. So, okay, what this is running, pretty high, but I've also got it like pulled down to a fairly low amount for a virtual desktop server, so it's probably okay. And I actually use this when I started provisioning VMs on our cluster. I provision them high and then let them run for 4 or 5 days, and then come back and like tighten down the memory utilization so that we have more free memory on our cluster. So you can see, here's another virt server, things like that. And of course, virtual memory is going to be of a higher utilization, or a lower utilization than actual physical memory. So you can see all that kind of stuff. You can see processor utilization. Most of my servers run pretty low. Our core obviously runs pretty low. A big one that you can look at is storage. So you keep a pretty good eye on, hey man, do we have, this server is acting kind of funky. Oh, it's only got 5 gigs left or 2 gigs left or whatever. And again, you can set up alerts based on all this stuff so that it will email you to tell you, hey, this thing's only got 2 gigs left. You should probably look at it. Fan speed, if you have a fan goes high or goes dead, if it fan stops at 0, you may want to know that. Temperature, we talked about battery charge. Most everything should have 100% battery. If it's a UPS, unless you're under, an outage. Another good one though is load. You can look at your total load for a UPS so that you can be like, oh man, that one's pretty high. We may want to look into getting, a bigger UPS, a more capacity or something like that. And in a similar state, the runtime works like that as well. So you can pull up and say, okay, this is my lowest runtime UPS. So I may need to talk to somebody about getting another battery module for it, or maybe going to a bigger UPS. If the load is low, but the runtime is low as well, then you probably want to look at batteries and not so much a bigger UPS. We have a battery that needs replacing in a UPS. 2, what? Oh man. I know what these are. But it'll tell you, like, do you need the battery replaced? Yes, I do. Hey, the paper is low. Oh yeah, I'm monitoring a printer just to see what the thing is. So you can literally get an alert when the paper's low or the toner's low. All the stuff like that. Oh yeah, toner. You can track your toner on your printers if you want. If you're into doing that, you can set alerts. You don't even have to set the alerts to you. You can just set the alerts to whoever orders toner, so they can be like, oh, this thing's low on toner. I can get one ordered. I can have it here before the people even realize it. Which that then goes into the alert section, which I've only got a few alerts set up just because I don't like getting pinged about if the toner's low and stuff. So I have that one turned off because we're replacing UPSs right now, or replacing batteries in UPSs right now. But you can get an alert when a device is rebooted, if it goes up or down. You can get an alert if a port goes over 90% utilization. A service is up or down if you have it monitoring services. You can build kind of whatever rule you want based upon the stuff that Libre tracks, and then have it notify you. And the other really cool thing about that is, I'm going to have to dig through this because they moved it. There is a place. It will tell you, no, alert transports. That's it. Nope. Alert templates. So there's a place in here somewhere where you can list all of the services that it can talk to. There we go. It used to be a grid that you could turn on and off. Now it's this transport rule. So you can set up nearly any way, like this thing's like an ex-girlfriend. It will find you, it will hunt you down, it will tell you that you have a box down. If you want to make a ticket, if you want to use push bullet, you want to I'm pretty sure it'll talk Slack. It'll talk Slack, Splunk, Syslog, Twilio, whatever if one of these things doesn't do it, there's probably a way to do it some other way, because that's what this thing's whole deal is. It will notify you in whatever way you tell it to, Discord, and it will get you the information. I mostly just use the mail one. I used Pushbullet for a long time, and then one night it had an issue, and it sent me like 150,000 Pushbullet notifications. And what happens in that situation is Android dies and reboots and comes up and gets 150,000 Pushbullet notifications, and dies and reboots and gets 150,000 Pushbullet notifications. And so, like about midnight, my phone just started going insane, and I woke up about 2 and was like, "What is happening?" And literally had to go to a web page and clear the Pushbullet notifications so my phone would settle down. So after that, I turned Pushbullet off. So you live, you laugh, you learn, you use loves. So that's like, there's a lot to alerts. You can set up scheduled maintenance and stuff like that so that it doesn't alert you when that thing goes down. I do kind of the basics with alerting. I use Libre a lot to just kind of see where things are at, what's going on with it, and to sort of tie this into at-home learning and stuff like that. One of the things, I don't know if I have to tie it in, but whatever. One of the things you can do with it is monitor. So these are extreme AP controllers. It'll tell you how many APs you have configured and stuff like that. But you can also see, there's a setting in there that makes it so you can't see specific things because you want to do something else. And I think I currently have it set to not be able to see specific things because I wanted it to do some things in that. So that limits a little bit what you can see, but you can see like your clients and who's connected based upon what APs. And you can see when they go high, things like that. You can set alerts to go high. The utilization of the channels based upon the radio. So as you have people in there, you can see that's thing. This is when school was in session. You can sort of okay, well, this looks kind of high, that looks kind of high, whatever. So this would be good if you have outdoor APs, or if you're doing the shove an AP up against the window in a classroom kind of situation. You can see if people are utilizing those. You can see, okay, how many people are showing up? Do we need to put more APs there? Do we need to move the channels around? This is a signal to noise ratio. At this level, it's effectively useless, but you can go in and redefine what the time range is so that you can actually kind of see it better. So if we look at let's look at August, or when did we go out of school? March 6th, March 16th. So we'll look something like that. Apparently, what did I do wrong? Oh, no. What? Oh, because I'm looking at the year. Okay, hang on. No. Okay. Apparently, why would it not? I'm gonna have to look at that. Maybe because I'm in the year thing, it automatically forces it to be a year. Um, um, I don't know. That used to work. Okay, there's going to be a ton of stuff that's up there. So anyway, you can edit, you can filter these things down. I'm clearly just not thinking about the proper way to do it, and it wouldn't be a good presentation if it didn't break, if it didn't do exactly what I wanted in some way. Receive signal noise. These are all, I mean, fairly high level wireless stuff. But if again, it's one of those things, right? Like if you see a change, so obviously we had a change, at certain times, and so okay, those are so far away. So that maybe is when I flipped the switch on wireless so that it didn't give me this exact same information. So that's probably what's going on there. So again, you can see like, oh man, there's a change. Let me try and track down what that change is. And you can do things like check your configs and stuff like that and see if something changed right around that time. Or you can, yeah, I don't think you can pull from the wireless controller. But okay, what do the logs say? Do the logs say something changed right around that time? Do the alerts say something changed right around that time? Did it get rebooted? What happened? And that's sort of the general thing about all of LibreNMS. Like, it's really great to be able to look at the fancy dashboard and be like, hey, things are up, things are down, whatever, it's cool. But it provides you this long historical archive of what your network's been doing versus what it's doing now. And that allows you to kind of look and be like, oh, okay, wait, is this still acting the way it did before? Or is it better? Or is it worse? Or what's going on? And is that a change I made? Is that a change someone else made? What's happening there? This isn't really, and this section is the app section, and it's not really super helpful if you don't run Linux boxes. I'm not sure if there's a way to make it tell you about Windows. And obviously, my Apache servers have updated past the point of the script I'm running being able to tell it. But I use it to track usage of like channels on my Asterisk server. So this is every 5 minutes how many calls are going on. You can also check um, pulls on like a MySQL server. And then this is if they have OS updates. So I try and fairly regularly go in and run updates on my servers, and you can set up a thing so that it tells you, hey, you have updates, you should run them. I don't have that alert set up because I have a calendar event that just reminds me to go in every now and then and do it. But I ran alerts, or I ran updates a couple weeks ago, and then now uh, there's apparently 20 that have came out in the last couple days. So I need to go in there probably and run them again. But you can also see how well I do at keeping updates on there. That was a bad day. Of course, they all came out like at once, so you know. Um, so that could be helpful for if you have machines that you can run these kind of things on. And what these are basically scripts on the OS that run and provide a number through SNMP, and then that the SNMP service picks it up. So you can write things to catch whatever you want as long as you have the ability to expose it through the SNMP interface. So that's kind of everything that has to do with Libre without ever actually like getting into the really, really deep stuff. I will tell you, when you set this up, if you follow their instructions, or probably if you use the Dockers or anything like that, it updates every night. So you always have the latest version of it unless you specifically stop it from doing that. So that also is why sometimes when I log into it to show a thing, that thing isn't the way it was the other day when I used it, because it literally probably updated last night. Libre is a very actively worked on software. So I mean, you'll get notifications and alerts saying, hey, we're gonna change this, or we're gonna do that. You got like 2 months until you need to do this thing. I've cleared all my notifications, but they also go in and they found out that in Parisys is bought by Extreme, they'll change the name to Extreme so that it shows up right and things like that. So you always have pretty much the latest and greatest when you log into it, unless you change that. And you always have, for the most part, you always have like up-to-date icons and names, stuff like that. When AVC got bought by, or Snyder bought Liebert, or Liebert bought Snyder, I don't remember which one the inbreeding happened with, but then they, within a week, they went in and renamed all that stuff so that it had the right icons for it and everything like that. So we got about 5 minutes. I haven't been looking at.
We do have one more question. Yeah,
Sure.
You got it. Go ahead.
They can use that OVA file and basically install a canned version of Libre. Yep. Yes. So you absolutely can. You can run it on VertBox or whatever. Something to know is that this thing goes out and polls your entire network approximately every 5 minutes. So I wouldn't run it like on your desktop or anything like that, because you're going to see some weird, like, oh man, oh no, everything's fine. Oh, no, the network's down. Oh no, everything's fine again. Just because it's literally not attacking, but scanning everything that's in your network on a 5-minute interval. So And those OVAs are really great to test it on and see if you like it and everything like that. Something you need to be aware of is that oftentimes they don't have very big hard drives provisioned in them. And so as this thing starts making graphs and all these daily and mid yearly and everything like that, it can take up a bit of hard drive space. Now, I mean, we're not talking crazy amounts. We're not talking terabytes, but we are talking 20 gigs maybe total by the time it logs everything and syslogs this and all that stuff like that. And those OVAs are a lot of times they're provisioned at like 8 gig hard drives. So you're not necessarily, you may find that you go in there to look one day and it's like everything's broke and it's all busted and why. And if you aren't comfortable going in there and looking on the Linux device to see, okay, wait, the hard drive's full, what do I need to do to fix that and stuff like that, just be aware. Like you need to probably plan ahead to knowing, okay, I need to work on this is the thing I need to look into. I need to learn how to do this. Also, I will say, because Linux is scary, right, Jody, that this is a really training wheels way to learn some stuff about Linux, because literally those commands on those install documents are verbatim what you need for the most part, and they keep them very up to date. If you will set aside an afternoon to install this and plan on looking at the command and then understanding what the command does, you can learn a crap ton of stuff about how things work in Linux. You can learn about shell piping, uh, yum or apt-get, how to install packages, how to install things, how to reconfigure, some various things, just because they give you what you need to do. And it's a really great way to be like, okay, this is what I need to get done. Now I need to figure out the best way, how to do it. I always laugh because the guy that came to install my Nutanix cluster had a list of Linux commands to get the cluster up. And when I looked at them, I was like, there's really like way better ways to do that thing that you're doing. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, like you're doing like these things in like 7 steps when you could actually just put them all in one thing and be done with it. And he's like, well, okay, show me. And I showed him and he's like, now what are you doing here though? And I explained it to him. And he's like, man, this is great. Like they just gave me these commands. I didn't know what they were doing. So and I love explaining really interesting like shell pipes and stuff like that. So if you want to start doing that and you get to a point where you don't know what you're doing and you're kind of scared, first off, it's probably fine because you're probably not using that Linux install for anything else. So in the end, you can smoke it and start over again. But I'm always happy to help try and explain what something's doing or something like that. Um, Anybody else got anything?
Since what will happen is the commercials and all the vendor presentations will come on in just a little bit. But if you're still on here and you have some questions, I put in the chat the link that you can actually join us in just a second. So when we go offline, you can join back in and ask Brent all kinds of questions. And I want to thank Brent for sharing. It was awesome. All kinds of good questions and good dialogue in the chat on Twitter and on text. Thank you so much. And be sure to fill out the exit survey. That is where you'll get your certificate for the session. And hopefully, if you have